Good evening. Welcome to the Highway Gospel Hall Sunday night gospel meeting. It is June the 6th, and I am coming to you from Tsawwassen Beach down in the city of Delta, British Columbia. My name is Kyle, and I appreciate the time you're taking to listen to us tonight. So today is June the 6th, and I am on a beach, and I thought it would be most appropriate to do this in this location because it reminds me of a historical event that happened on a beach on June the 6th. Not in 2021, but in 1944. And so I want to draw a lesson from history, and I want to see what kind of lessons we can learn from it that are also Bible lessons. So let's think a little bit about World War II. World War II started in 1939, and after years of fighting in Africa, the Middle East, across Europe, into Russia, and then of course Pearl Harbor, and you had the Battle of the Pacific. Finally, on June the 6th, 1944, you had the Allies invade France. And what they were doing was heading into France across the English Channel. They were going to storm the beaches of Normandy in northern France, and then they were hoping to get across and then into Nazi Germany and make an end of the tremendous atrocities that had happened and the war that had ravaged across the world. So we have June the 6th as an important day. And on June the 6th, we had landing craft, we had ships, we had aircraft, we had everything and everybody involved. And they landed on a beach, probably similar to this, but they came across on the water, they landed on the beach, they rushed up the beach, and that day they won a tremendous victory. A victory that today we even live in the good of that victory. But you know, D-Day happened on June the 6th, 1944. And the war didn't end that day. In fact, another year went on before you had the end of the war in Europe, and then a few more months and you had the end of the war in Japan. And after D-Day, once the Battle of D-Day happened, you know, victory was pretty much assured. Victory was going to happen. It was just a matter of time. There were still going to be lives lost. There was going to be a lot of costly battles that would happen. But at the end of it, victory was assured. And so because of D-Day, people lived in the assurance that there was going to come a point at which the war would be over. And so even though D-Day wasn't the end of the war, it was the beginning of the end of the war. And from 1944 on June the 6th until the following year, you had individuals who were living in anticipation of victory because of a battle that had happened in the past. And this is the Bible lesson that I want to bring to you today. You know, the Bible is a most amazing book. It's absolutely phenomenal when you think about what's in it, the stories that are contained in it, the morality that is contained in it, the laws, the statutes. You know, I think it's fair to say that in Western civilization, one of the most important documents in our legal system was the Magna Carta, and yet that was largely drawn from the laws that we see in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. And so the Bible is a hugely influential book, and the Bible tells us this overarching story of humanity. Tells us about the very beginning of when everything came into existence. And the Bible tells us that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. You know, when I look out at something as beautiful as this, and yeah, even on a rainy day, it's still beautiful. When I look at all of the beauty and the order that's in the world, all the way from the immensity of the universe to the beauty of the beach, all the way down to the intricacies that are seen in the biology of seaweed. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. If we were to take a telescope and to look up into the far reaches of the universe, we are going to see order. And when we take a microscope and we look into the tiniest of cells, we are also going to see order. And if we look into the molecular level, we're going to see order. Things that happen a particular way and never change. These are the laws that govern our universe that God brought into existence. And He brought into existence energy and time and space and matter, and all of those things came into being, and God is the one who started it all. And God is the one who brought human beings into existence. God is the one who set up the laws by which we ought to operate. and the laws that are going to govern our relationships. You know, the two of the most important questions are right in the very, very beginning of the Bible. The very first question is this one that God asked Adam and Eve in the garden after they had gone wrong. You know, sin came in, they decided to go their own way, they said no to what God was recommending and stating, and they said, our way is better. And so the first question God asked is, where are you? And then if you turn over the next chapter, you discover a story about a murderer, the first murderer who killed his brother. And in that story, God asked another question. And in that instance, the question is, where is your brother? And so those two questions basically encompass all of human experience. And we could regulate our lives based on those two things. Number one, where are you? Have you been fully located? Do you know who you are, what you are, where you are, and why you are? Where are you? That's number one. And then secondly, where is my brother? Do I treat people the way that I want to be treated? Do I treat other human beings as if they're equal to me? And it's one thing to say it, it's another one thing to profess it, it's another thing to live it and to do it. And so God brought this world into existence and He set it up. But when human beings go wrong, they go terribly, terribly wrong. The beach on June 6, 1944 is an example of that. What were the Allies trying to do? Trying to put an end to the atrocities that had happened, trying to put an end to war, the devastation that happened as a result of the actions of humankind. And so the victory on June the 6th on that beach was tremendous. And so humans have the ability to really, really mess things up. And so from the beginning, when God brought all of these things into existence, He created them by the word of His power. He made them out of things that did not exist. And so God calls into being the things that don't exist. That's why He's God. Every single thing, person, entity, or piece of material or matter or energy, all of it was brought into existence by God. And so He set things up, and humans have made a terrible mess of this world ever since. You know what the Bible calls that mess? The Bible calls that mess sin. And it's one thing to think about sin and you think that, well, maybe that's something that other people do. That's far off. You know, I used to grow up, well, when I grew up, I used to listen to stories about people who did terrible things, like, for example, the Nazis. But it was always way over there. It was always in another part of the world, and it was always a them. But you know what it took for me to really realize when the answer to that question, like, Kyle, where are you and where is your brother? Those two questions that ought to encompass all of human life. I realized that sin isn't something that's over there. Sin isn't something that is somehow off in the distance and it's not really related to me. No. Sin is right in here. Sin is in the heart of every single individual. And not only is it the stuff I do wrong, it's the very tendency I have in myself that even if I don't go do wrong, I still think wrong. And I am a broken human, just like every single other human on the planet. And the Bible describes us this way: all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And so God brought all of this world into existence. He set up things so that it would run. Human beings have made a terrible mess, and it needed to be fixed. So how is humanity going to be fixed? Is there another battle on a beach, another June the 6th that can happen? Well, I want to tell you about a battle that's already done. Like, I'm not looking forward to something that can fix the world. I'm looking back at something that has already happened that actually can fix me and has fixed me. And it has fixed millions upon millions of other people. Those people are Christians. So how has God fixed me? Well, in spite of my sin, God did something to wipe away the penalty and the consequences of my sin. He hasn't made me perfect, not yet. That's still quite a ways in the future when I won't even live in the presence of sin and I will be forever delivered from the tendency and the power of sin in my life. That part's still future, but the future victory is guaranteed because of a past event. Just like on June the 6th, when that event happened, it guaranteed victory, but the victory was still in the future. And I'm living my own version of the time between D-Day and Victory Day. I'm right in the middle. And my victory is assured because of a past battle that was won, D-Day. So let me tell you about that past battle. That past battle, it wasn't something that was fought on a battlefield. It wasn't some kind of heroic event that millions of soldiers went and did, or it wasn't some kind of remarkable thing that a whole pile of humans got together and built and did. No. That thing that I'm talking about is actually something that happened at a cross. Happened at a cross in Jerusalem nearly 2,000 years ago. And on that cross, a man called Jesus Christ was taken. He was crucified upon a cross. He was taken. He had, prior to his crucifixion, he had been whipped. He had a crown of thorns placed on his head. He was treated, in other words, as if he was the sinner who had done something wrong. He was treated like the robber. He was treated like the murderer. He was treated like all of the people, the criminals. And Christ went to a cross and he suffered the consequences that the normal criminal would have suffered. But you know why he went to that cross? He went not because of stuff he did, but he went because of stuff that I did. And the battle that Jesus fought at the cross it didn't appear anyways on the surface to be heroic, like sitting on a beach and having men in landing craft and jumping out and braving the bullets and finding a way forward. It wasn't that at all. It was a man on a cross crucified who just simply said these three words: "It is finished." Well, what was finished? Him? No, he wasn't finished. You see, Christ was taken down from that cross. He was buried in a tomb, and 3 days later, the Bible tells me he rose again from the dead, and he defeated my greatest enemy, which is death. But on that cross, when Jesus cried, "It is finished," he wasn't talking about himself. He wasn't talking about the end of life or the end of civilization. He was talking about the fact that my sin was paid for. It's finished. It's finished. It's as if somebody came up to me and took my credit card and said, "Hey, I'll take care of this. I'm going to pay it in full. You no longer have to pay. The debt is over. It is finished." And years ago, I realized that that was true. And I believed it. And what I'm doing now is I'm asking you to believe it too. And faith is not some kind of thing that's some magical feeling here off or somewhere in the sky that you need to grab and pull into yourself. No. Faith is in you. You have the faith. You have faith to walk across a road. You have faith to sit in a chair. You have faith to drive a car. You have faith to do all kinds of things. Well, I want you to take your ability to believe and I want you to place it in the right thing. And that object that you need to believe in, or that thing that you need to believe in, is Jesus Christ. That when Jesus Christ died on a cross and when he said, "It is finished," that basically he was saying it's forgiven, it's done, it's over, there's nothing more that needs to be paid. And at that point on, victory was certain. And like the boys on June the 6th, 1944, who stormed the beaches of Normandy and won a victory, victory was assured because of that battle, even though the victory had not yet been realized fully. And I am living in that time period, and I want to tell you that you can come to the knowledge of future victory. What is ultimate future victory? Well, it's a home in heaven. It's a home in a place where sin will never ravage, will never cause despair, will never cause tears, and will never cause pain. It's literally the utopia that everyone wants to have, but no one seems to be willing to pay for. Well, we can't. And so that is the thing that God can give me. And that's the ultimate victory. But my assurance of that victory isn't some kind of a blind hope in the future. It's based on the historical events of Jesus Christ at a cross, a battle that was fought in order to guarantee a future victory. Just like on the beach, a battle fought in order to guarantee a future victory. Did you know an interesting thing about June the 6th is there's a story about that battle that never actually got told. It never got written and it never got spoken. And you know what it was? Well, it did get written. It was actually an apology letter from the Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, Dwight Eisenhower. And Eisenhower wrote a note that was anticipating failure. He thought, well, now what happens? What would happen if the troops storm the beaches and we lose? And he wrote a letter that apologized and took responsibility for the defeat. And you know, that letter never had to be written. That letter of defeat, it never had to be read out loud. It was written, but it never had to be read out loud. And that letter of defeat and apology, although it is still in existence, it doesn't apply at all. Why? Because the victory was won. So I look at my life, and do I have things to regret or to apologize for, or things that I've done that have hurt others and hurt myself? Yeah, I do. But you know, that list of things, it'll never actually be held against me, because God held Christ accountable for my sin at the cross. And when Jesus cried, "It is finished," what he was talking about was, my sin is finished. The payment for it is gone. I can be completely forgiven because of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ upon a cross. So, thanks for listening. Just a little story about June the 6th, 1944. Here we are on a beach in June the 6th, 2021, and we can talk about that parallel, that story that is a parallel to our experience today, and we can live in the confidence of future victory, a home in heaven where there will be peace and life and love forevermore, because another man fought a battle for us. And he fought that battle at the cross by going to the place where he was crucified. And on that cross he said, "It is finished." And you can believe and you can trust in that battle in the past in order to gain the victory in the future. God bless you. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it.